This is a PowerPoint about Infect in the Commander format. So historically, Infect has always been kind of bad. There's only 45 creatures with the keyword, and they're all really low statted, and most of them are pretty overcosted to make up for the fact that they have to deal half the damage to a player that a normal person does. However, in a standard environment with cards like Savage Splicer and Birthing Pod, you couldn't really afford to be playing such bad aggro cards. It was, however, part of a really broken combo deck in Modern, where you would use Blazing Shoal, discarding a Progenitus or Dragonstorm to give your Blighted Agent +9 attack and kill your opponent in one hit with an unblockable Infect creature. Nowadays, Blazing Shoal and Gitaxian Probe are both banned because free spells are too good for Modern, and it's dead in the water. Don't worry, this will never be a problem again. Nowadays in 2024, it's in a really bad combo deck, where you use Sigarda's Age and Colossus Hammer to set up Inkmoth Nexus as a 10/10 flyer, and just hoping your opponent isn't playing any of the free artifact removal or flyers that can stop this thing. In Commander, you would think that it's a really strong mechanic, because you only have to deal 10 damage to each opponent, but the problem still remains that the cards are not good. Skithrix the Blight Dragon sees play as like a one-shot Voltron commander, but that's just kind of the Modern thing again, where it's like one good card supported by generic power boosting tools. Then we jump cut to 2023, where Phyrexia All Will Be One gets released with the prospect of being really strong. You get the Toxic mechanic, which allows creatures to do set amounts of poison damage while staying on curve stat-wise. You've got spells that are regular costed and like still poison your opponents. There's even a Commander precon, which hopefully will give the deck the strategy, the legs it needs to stand up in Commander, right? This is good and everyone's really excited. And it just doesn't get through. There's too many really, really strong strategies in Standard at the moment, just like last time, and so it doesn't get in there. That being said, I do want to commend R&D. They really did try with the Standard stuff. There's a lot of really powerful aggressive creatures. There's spells that are almost on rate. They cost maybe one more to poison your opponent, if even. And there's a lot of recursion, there's a lot of durability. It's a really, really well thought out way to do Infect this second time around. It just can't compete with the Wandering Emperor and Shieldred the Apocalypse and Fable of the Mirror Breaker and Atraxa Grand Unifier and Ledger Shredder and the 17 Doomblades in the format. The Commander deck, however, is a bit of a different story. These commanders are just kinda awful. Excelling Vishcraft will reward you for building poison counters over the course of a long game, but then punish you for actually, killing an opponent. Vishgrass is a Infect commander that gets larger based on the poison counters on your opponents, but that means as soon as an opponent's knocked out of the game, Vishgrass permanently loses stats that he can never get back. Ixhel is a similar case. She starts stealing cards from your opponent's decks, but as soon as you knock an opponent out, then that's it. They're not able to give you cards anymore. These both also lack access to blue, which means you lose the most iconic blue card, which is Blighted Agent. I know it's a lore thing with Atraxa, because it's Ixhel is Atraxa's spawn. It doesn't matter, it sucks. So then you go to the EDH page for Infect, and it doesn't get a lot better. All of these creatures are Phyrexians, so they could theoretically kill you with Infect, but either they're really slow, or they're not really an Infect deck, they're just Phyrexian, or they're really bad at pushing the Infect damage through. They're all just kind of bad at doing their job. It makes sense that they lost the whole Phyrexia war in a single set. So, if we want to play Infect in Commander, what do we need to be thinking about? Well, first of all of the good creatures have really small stats, so you need to either be able to capitalize on that, or find a way to get past it. The card pool is also really, really shallow, so you need a deck that can make the most out of each card that you have access to. And then finally, your opponents are going to be on high alert after they get one poison counter. While a lot of times you can push through 2 or 3 damage with a creature that would just deal normal damage, your opponent's never going to let one poison counter get through. They're always going to put up blockers because that's hypothetically too dangerous to let stand. So first up, we've got the Sultai commanders. Brokos, Apex of Forever, and Volrath the Shapestealer are both able to essentially transform into really big versions of your Infect creatures, Brokos by mutating over them, and by Volrath turning into copies of them. These guys both threaten really scary commander damage with toxic creatures, or just straight up killing your opponents with Infect in 2 hits via Infect creatures. Azuri Claw of Progress also fits in here because he turns your Infect creatures really big, but Simic sort of suffers from do-nothing syndrome in EDH, and so he's kind of like the lesser of the three. Then you've got these size doesn't matter commanders. Finn the Fangbearer is able to turn all of your little Death Touchers into a sort of trolley problem where you have to either give up your creatures to block a Death Toucher or take Infect damage. It's a really, really scary commander. Tetsuko Umezawa can be really frustrating. She allows your 1 power or 1 toughness creatures to get in, meaning that your opponent can't stop like a Guild Pact Informant or a Viral Drake or some like 2/1 with Infect. And then you've got Kami's Obscura Oculus. Kami's allows you to make 1 creature unblockable and then give another one double strike. And at the same time, she's also conniving while she does this, meaning you're able to threaten a lot of damage on like multiple different axes and like fuel your draws at the same time. Kami's is a really, really strong and, in my opinion, underrated commander. There's also Saskia's ability to let you infect 2 opponents at the same time. If there's someone who's walling up really well, you can just choose them with Saskia and then hit the other person. While granted this doesn't work with toxic creatures, and you also don't have access to blue still, having access to red is better than having access to nothing. You get the ability to include damage increasing effects or like menace, double strike, unblockable effects because red has a ton of really good combat tricks. So you're getting really good aggro tools in exchange for some of the blue infect tools. Then you've got John Arenicus, the Shattered One. This is sort of like the 3rd iteration of the give your opponents cards commander. However, unlike Zedru and Beamtown Bullies, he kind of incentivizes you to build something other than Eater of Days for once in your fucking life. By giving your opponents infect creatures and goading them and making them unsacrificable, you're doing a lot of interesting things. One, you're keeping your opponents in the game and they're still like active agents, but they're now on a much scarier clock because they're swinging at each other with infect creatures and they have to swing them. It's also kind of taking the onus off of you as the infect player because you're not the person swinging Skithrix at John, it's the other guy at the table. And like smart opponents will figure out that like you're the problem ultimately, but in the heat of the moment in some games, it can stir up enough trouble that you're not directly in the line of sight of your opponents. Then you've got Gale Waterdeep Prodigy with Scion of Halaster. Gale is able to get past the small card pool problem by casting your instants and sorceries twice, once from hand and once from graveyard. This means that you can double up on all of the Proliferate and Infect spells from Phyrexia, All Will Be One, and Old Mirrodin, and also like War of the Spark. He's a really strong commander because you don't have to worry about getting in with creatures, you just have to worry about resolving spells in a blue-black shell, which is pretty easy to do. So in conclusion, the Ixhel and Vishgraz commanders are really bad because they reward you for building Infect, but then they punish you for killing your opponents. You'd much rather have a commander that synergizes with what you're trying to do than play a commander that sort of pays you off for already doing it. Those kind of cards should sit in the 99 of your deck rather than being the thing you have access to at all times. Your command zone should be a tool for furthering your game plan, not for congratulating yourself once you've done it, if that makes sense. So, if you like the video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.